All right, this next portion here is going to be so valuable for you to help keep you healthy and durable through your job and through retirement. And what we're going to be doing with these series is we're going to be taking your work duties and breaking them down and looking at them from a muscular development standpoint. All right, with this series, we're actually going to be focusing on CPR, the performing of CPR, with two goals in mind. Number one is to always do what's in the best interest of your patient, right? Great quality CPR per the standards which we're using right now, where research has shown is going to improve patient outcome. But then secondly, and maybe these are in improper order depending on what your goals are, but is to be sure that everybody goes home. And that everybody goes home to me doesn't just mean that you don't have a heart attack or you don't fall through a staircase and die that way, but also everybody goes home strong and healthy and durable. So that's going to be the focus of this component right here. Now, this is going to be a series, number one, so that we can keep everything moving along and keep these learning tidbits in short intervals so that we can maximize our attention spans, but also so that you have that foundational knowledge as to why we're making recommendations for how to perform these skills in a very specific way. All right, so the purpose of this first segment here is to discuss a little bit about muscular development and why it's such a useful approach for keeping you guys healthy, and girls, healthy and durable all through your careers and beyond. So muscular development, from our perspective, that's actually where strength comes from. And I think people get a little bit confused, especially when the message is coming from me, that muscular development simply means you're going to be putting on mass and putting on muscles with efforts to make you a bodybuilder or a power lifter. And that's truly not the intent. Muscular development is actually it's like the capital. That's where all of your strength is actually going to come from. So as a muscular development coach, sure, I can help you put muscle on, but part of the responsibilities within this genre of muscular development, that's a big word, is going to be watching movement patterns to see, are your muscles developing? Are they forming within a movement pattern that is proper, meaning it's going to make your anatomy function like it's supposed to, and again, keep you durable and keep you healthy throughout your career and beyond. So that's a little bit about the muscular development component. Now, the reason why we're making this a graduated series is that before we just say, okay, if you want to do great CPR, you should be able to bench press or you should be able to do tricep dips. That's not how it works. We're not going to start out here with high level what to do, how to do it, without giving you that foundational knowledge. It's the exact same way that we train people when they're moving through fire academy before they become independent firefighters or firefighters who work within a team or even EMS responders from that point. We always have to have that foundational knowledge, right? You don't send the rookie, the new firefighter into a fire, into RIT, or into trench rescue until they understand fire basics. Right? Smoke and fire behavior. They have to understand fire flow. They have to understand how to actually don their gear, put on their SCBA. They have to learn how to breathe so that they don't exhaust their tank in 7 minutes or less. And so you give them all that foundational knowledge. And so our approach here with FD Muscle is to do the exact same learning template, only we do it in the fitness and muscular development arena. So with muscular development, keep in mind that every part of your body is attached, all right? Your muscles all work in tandem with one another. And so whatever you do on one end, if you extend muscles, it causes contraction of muscles on the other end. And so ultimately what happens is that we develop certain movement patterns. Okay, so you're used to picking up a pen a certain way. You're used to picking up tools a certain way. You're used to humping hose a certain way. And so over time, based on your training, actually, you start to develop movement patterns and they become habits. Now, muscles will develop around those movement patterns. Right? So think about times maybe when you've gone on a call, if you've been assist on an EMS call, where somebody hasn't moved out of bed for 6 months, and you try to do a blood pressure reading on them, and their arms have been like this for the past 6 months, they no longer have that ability to extend that arm out anymore because they've not been exercising that range of motion. So they actually have abnormal muscular development because of lack of range of motion. Does that make sense? The same thing will happen when you habitually form the same task, the same skill over and over and over and over again in that same movement pattern, that same line of movement. It's going to create muscular deformities unless we intentionally take action to work, I'm going to say, opposing muscle groups to allow for your body to maintain its normal anatomy and normal movement. Okay, now one of the things that we can definitely appreciate and notice about firefighters, and since a lot of you are men, is you tend to be very, what I call, trap dominant. Okay, so your traps, big traps equals a big strong man, but with you guys, it tends to be like your go-to muscle. And I noticed that when you're picking up tools, or even if you're picking up like extrication equipment, that a lot of times when you are struggling and you're trying to be stronger, the first thing that we see is your traps go up. Okay, so your trap muscle connects from the base of your skull, it comes down to your shoulders, and it attaches at the base of your thoracic spine. Or the middle of your thoracic spine, and so it's shaped like a diamond, but you are only working usually on you guys that upper part of the traps. Now depending on if you're right-handed or left-handed, you're always reaching forward, usually to pick up a tool, to pick up a pen, to pick up the kids or whatever, and so the traps actually get their muscle movement within a very specific and limited range. And what ultimately happens then from a muscular development aspect is that by reaching forward, all right, and if I'm right-handed, you'll see me reach forward here, is that the muscles on the front, so you have your pecs, you have your anterior, your front delts, they tend to become shortened, right, and contracted because you're reaching forward, and the muscles on the back side, your traps, and then you have little muscles which are underneath your shoulder blades, your scapula, they tend to become lengthened and rounded to the front because most of the time we're always operating and doing things in front of us. Does that make sense? And so when you have this contraction of these muscles that are shortened and lengthened in the back, you can actually develop then a shoulder abnormality that when you're standing, it almost looks like one shoulder is, and it is, one shoulder drops lower than the other, and there usually is a forward roll to it. Okay, so this presents a danger for you at home or even at work, is that the next time you attempt to do any maneuver which is outside of that normal range of motion which you've grown accustomed to, is if you open up that arm, let's say to reach and get something out of the back seat, even like a baseball hat, these muscles now are stretched, and the tendons and the ligaments are stretched beyond what their normal range of motion has been, and that is actually significant enough in order to cause a major injury to take you out of work for 3 or 6 months. So being very intentional about countering what our normal movement patterns are is going to be one way for us to overcome that high risk of injury, and in this case, of a shoulder injury. All right, so stay tuned. We're going to move on to section 2, and we will get to the whole CPR thing, I promise you. So, thanks.